Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Cargan's Cheat Sheet. I'm your host, Dan Cargan, and we have a very nice guest today. His name is Lucha Libre. How are we doing, Lucha?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I'd love to have you. So tell me, is this game going to be specifically for Xbox? Because reading up on the controls, it definitely looks that way.
It's being developed in Unreal Engine 4, and right now all of the work I'm doing is revolving around the Xbox controllers that I have. So PC only for the moment. Hopefully down the road we're going to be talking about consoles.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm a big Xbox fan, so I was really looking forward to it. On the mellow side, so the controls, it look kind of fun and everything. Tell me more about the controls. Is it going to be easy base, pick up and play, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, actually, if you go to my Twitter page and you check out the link, there is a playable version of it that people can try out. I've been uploading playable versions because I feel like it's a little bit more engaging with the community where people can actually try the thing out as it's being developed. But yeah, so the controls itself, to answer your question directly, it's going to be based very, very heavily around the old Aki games from the Nintendo 64 era. I grew up playing those games. I love them to death. And I've just missed that control scheme for a long time. So that sort of grappling, weak and heavy strikes, the way that grappling is integrated into a lot of the different aspects of the gameplay, that's going to be kind of what the benchmark is. So if you remember those games, you'll probably be right at home.
Absolutely, like Revenge and No Mercy, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, my first brush with those games came in 1997. Right under the Christmas tree was WCW versus Nwo World Tour. And, before that, being a typical American gamer, I would have been playing things like the old Acclaim wrestling games, and things like WrestleMania, the arcade game. So playing that World Tour was just kind of like a breath of fresh air. It was so very much like playing a wrestling match, and it just left this indelible mark on me as a video gamer and as a wrestling fan back in the day. So it's just kind of one of those things where I'm trying to recreate a little bit of that magic.
What I loved about them games was the kick out platform. So is it going to be button mash to kick out for your game?
I'm debating how to integrate that. Right now, I'm looking heavily at how the Aki system works, and a lot of the reversals, a lot of the kick-out mechanics do seem to be sort of automated by the game based on how your health and your spirit are in those games. So I'm going with a similar approach right now. Down the line, I might reconsider that, but what I have done is integrated pretty heavily a very similar, I'll say that, a very similar spirit meter to the older games. Some of the more recent additions, and again, if people head over to my Twitter page, they can check it out. Some of the more recent additions are like the pulsing that the old meters would have. You can go into special, you can go into a danger state, and it's when you hit that danger state that you're really susceptible to pins. So there's also the sort of give and take that those old spirit meters had as well. So that's what it's driving it a little bit more than just button mashing right now. And I'm kind of pleased with how it's working out. I do think that wrestling games, for them to have a little bit more of an edge for me anyway, I've always kind of appreciated a little bit of a random quality where it's like, okay, if you get grappled, there's a chance the computer will help you with a reversal. If you are whipped to the corner, there's a chance you might be able to get that boot up, and the computer can sort of assist you with that.
Well, I like that.
That said, that said, I do have a counter system integrated too that's coming in the next build release, where you can tap the right bumper right as a strike is coming in, and you'll do a counter, you'll do a shove away, and if you tap the left bumper as somebody's trying to grapple you, you'll do the same thing. And then if your spirit meter is really high, you'll also catch them either in a really strong strike or in a really good pinning combination. So there's some depth there, even with a little bit of randomness thrown in.
I like the randomness because it makes it more unpredictable. I like it because the newer games like 2K and everything, It's just way too goofy and way too simulated. It's too predictable. I like the way you're like taking the approach. You're taking it back old school, where the damage meter would hit. You know, so I like that. Anyway, do we have? Go on.
I appreciate that.
No, yeah. So the roster size. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that answer will kind of flow into a little bit of how the development approach is going for this. So just to lay it out there, I am a one-man team that's putting this together. I guess it's actually that's slightly not true now because I am working with recently a really talented musician out of Scotland. His name is Nwo Watson, and he's doing some tremendous music to replace some of the found music that I have in the game right now. Ewan is a tremendous guy, and he's a really, really talented musician, so I'd love to give him a little shout-out here. And we'll be able to hear a lot of his music coming in the next dev build as well. But in terms of the programming, the art, that sort of thing, it is a one-man show. And so my goal with this prototype, and I'm calling it a prototype really so that it can be something where people can download it, try it out, really see what the intention is with the game, get a feel for the gameplay, get a feel for the flow. And right now, for the prototype, what I'm aiming for is a roster of about 6 characters plus a boss character that you'll face in either like a tournament mode or a like face the champ mode, that sort of thing.
Oh, I like that.
Prototype is also going to involve things like I'd love to integrate something like a little, an example of what we could do for like a Lucha de Apuesta, where it's like a mask versus title type thing. Give people just a little flavor of what a broader release would look like.
More stipulations. I like that.
Yeah. And so then after the prototype is completed, which I'm hoping I keep anybody who asks me about like the timing on it, I always say, yeah, it's going to be about 18 months. And I think that answer is still appropriate here. So I'm hoping within the next 18 months I can have this done. This is my first real brush in working with the Unreal 4 engine as a programmer. So I have to learn next about things like artificial intelligence and things like that. But I'm thinking in the next 18 months or so, we should have the full prototype out. And again, to answer your question, it would be about 6 characters total playable at that point. I'd love to get the prototype up on Steam, get it out to the community, and then look at potential fundraising options to go into a little bit more of like a commercially driven release where we can talk about a larger roster. We can talk about some added game modes, a story mode, a creation mode, that sort of thing, and really, really flesh it out. So right now, again, it's a small-ish roster, though I think that 6 is a pretty good number to get a feel for like different characters and different abilities, and really play up different personalities as well. And after we get to that point, I can open it up to the broader community and say, hey, I'd love to see about getting some funding for this, if we can start a Kickstarter, or perhaps I can find a publisher at that point. It's one of those things I haven't given too much thought to yet, outside of just kind of pie in the sky thinking. But I have a feeling that we'll be able to approach that once we get to the end of that development phase.
Absolutely. So, we talked about the release date and everything, talked about how this is going to be for Steam. I just wanted to talk to you about online play, because I know a lot of the community's into that nowadays. Are you aiming for this game to be online play? Is that your goal? Do you want that?
So I would love for there to be online play with this game. I think that there is, one thing that's really kind of motivating that too is I've seen some people stream the game, and I really am very grateful to anybody who's done that on some of their online shows and podcasts. Dre 41 Gaming, New Legacy Incorporated, Game Marks, CFG streams, excuse me. They've done some tremendous little playthroughs. They've really helped spread the word about the game. I'm really grateful to them. But some of the hang-ups are always like, well, if you have people in multiple places, which of course the pandemic has sort of kind of made that more extreme. It's one of those things where I really want people to be able to play, even if they're not in the same room. Even as much as couch co-op and couch multiplayer is important. So that's one of those things I would absolutely love to add. It's also one of those things where, as I look at potential commercial potential for this game down the line, it's one of those things where I really need to start thinking about bringing some other people on board to help with the programming. Just because, again, this is my first brush with the Unreal Engine, and it's one of those things where I just only know so much at this point. So I have a feeling it will brush up against some of that stuff. And that extends to things like the story mode and create a character and things like that, where I just need some added help. So the short answer is, yep, I would love that. The long answer is it's just a little bit more complicated at this point, but definitely something on the radar.
Yeah, speaking of the Unreal Engine 4, why did you choose that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. The main driving factor for me was that it has a really good visual programming language. So what you can do in Unreal 4 natively is go in and work with what are called blueprints. They look like little square nodes, and they are basically little lines of code that are generated in a very visual way. And they connect to each other with little strings that allow you to kind of like, if you want to program, like, say, a character throwing a punch, let's say, you can set it up with the animation. You can have the character, you can have it be where you hit a button and it visually represents that in the blueprints. It'll tell you when the animation plays. It'll tell you the timing and things like that. I'm a very visually driven person. I'm much more at home doing the art for a project like this versus the programming. And I've tried to sit down with more traditional programming where you write lines of code in the past, and there's always just been a blocker for me. It's just my brain doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So when Unreal was allowing people to work with these blueprints, I thought, well, that seems like a great opportunity to be able to dive in and work with something like that. And because it's a little bit more visual, and because you can sort of see what the code looks like in a little bit of a different way, it's opened the door for me to explore this. Also, there are a couple of really great tools that came along that are supported by the Unreal Engine. So a couple of shout-outs here I have. One for a guy named John Van Dam. He came up with a thing called the Grapple Engine, which is available on the Unreal Marketplace. And it's a way that allows Unreal to easily integrate grabbing animations where one player can grab another. And obviously that's perfect for wrestling. There's another guy named Ali ZL, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He came up with a targeting system so that you can lock on to other characters in the game. Both of those things, I saw them back when I was like, I'd really love to start developing a wrestling game. What can I do for this? And I was like, okay, so the Unreal Engine has this visual coding option, and there are a couple of tools here that would really help with the development, especially for somebody who's new to this. Let's go for it. Let's try it. And so that was sort of the main motivator.
Interesting. So yeah, that's really cool that's how it all formed out for you and everything. And as a single developer, it must be hard and everything. But what inspired you, or who inspired you to make this game, or was it just your decision?
Yeah, well, it's been one of those things I've just wanted to do for a very, very long time. Looking at a lot of the information out there for people who are interested in getting into game development, I can tell you that there's very little interest, I think, for people making a wrestling game from scratch. It seems like, most of the tutorials I've seen delve into things like first-person shooters and Dark Souls or action RPG type things, that sort of thing. But for me, as a kid, wrestling games hold a very, very special place in my heart. I grew up in the Northeast of the United States, in upstate New York, back in the 80s, and the WWF was taking over big time at that point, especially if you were living in the Northeast, because that was sort of their stomping ground. So I was one of those kids who had all of the little Hasbro action figures. I had I would tune in on Saturday mornings when they would play Superstars, or Sunday mornings. I would, I followed the WWF quite extensively. And as a kid growing up in the 80s too, Nintendo was a big thing for me as well. So those two things just kind of became married in my mind. And then, of course, when the Aki games came along, it was just, there was no going back. The genre just really spoke to me. It was like, this can be something that's really fun, really engaging, really deep. I have very fond memories from around that time of just sitting down for hours and hours with friends, playing match after match in something like World Tour or Revenge, and just having a blast.